For the first time since the dark days of totalitarian rule, we have political prisoners in Poland. They are the former Interior Minister Mariusz Kamiński and his deputy Maciej Wąsik.
How's it going, friends? Poland is in the middle of a major constitutional crisis. Less than 4 weeks after being sworn in as the new prime minister, Donald Tusk has ordered the arrest of 2 leading members of his opposition. They were arrested at the presidential palace last night. He says they're going to go to prison to serve 2-year terms in direct defiance of presidential pardons and a ruling by the Constitutional Court of Poland upholding those pardons. Now, Tusk is a sort of Angela Merkel type globalist figure. He's a former EU Council president. He's a former president of the EPP grouping in the European Parliament. He's the head of Civic Platform. Years ago, they were billed as a center-right Polish party, but they've moved to the left more and more each year, kind of like the CDU in Germany. Now, mid-October, there was an election. I made a video about it, so you can go back and watch that or rewatch it. And I explain all the different factions and all the different parties. It's a real mess. Well, the Polish Law and Justice Party was in power for 8 years. They lost power. The new government is this broad coalition of Civic Platform plus a huge number of small parties and a huge number of independent candidates, a lot of which are just probably a total wild card, all different issues. Well, they only have 53.9% of the seats. And so their coalition is going to be extremely fragile, extremely hard to hold together. It's brand new. It's already cracking. Tusk is already rolling out his plans for pro-EU reforms and greater EU integration, where there's big opposition from the farming industry, from the trucking industry, and there's people in his own coalition that are opposed to some of these things that he wants. Now, the Law and Justice Party, they didn't lose power because of any huge shift in attitudes among the Polish people. They didn't suddenly shift way towards globalism or way towards open borders or anything like that, despite what you may have seen in clickbait articles. The reality is the Polish Law and Justice Party was in power for 8 years, and during those 8 years there were scandals and controversies and personal beefs and all different things that led some voters to souring on the party. Now, the 2 people who were arrested, the former Interior Minister and the former Deputy Interior Minister, both of whom are current members of Parliament right now, well, they were charged with corruption back in 2015 or 2016. They were convicted by a lower court and sentenced to 2 years in prison. They appealed to the Polish Supreme Court. The Supreme Court declined to hear the appeal. President Andrzej Duda pardoned them both. 2 years later, the Supreme Court ruled that his pardon didn't count for some really convoluted reason. And the Polish Constitutional Court took up the issue and ruled that yes, it most certainly does count. So here's the thing. The whole Polish judicial system has been a giant ongoing constitutional crisis for years. First of all, the Supreme Court of Poland has 120 members. And a lot of them are elderly people who have been judges since communism. They were originally appointed as judges by the communist regime. Well, for years, the Polish Law and Justice Party was passing laws instituting mandatory retirement ages to try to get some new judges in. And then each time the EU would oppose it and they threatened Poland, and there was even threats to sanction Poland. And each time Duda ultimately backed down and did not implement the early forced retirement. Then you had the Constitutional Court of Poland, which rules on matters of what's constitutional. That has 9 judges who are appointed for terms by the Polish parliament. So essentially, you have these 2 competing top courts that are in opposition with each other. Now, it's easy to understand why the Supreme Court might rule against Duda and these 2 Law and Justice guys, since Law and Justice was trying to force a lot of the judges into retirement. So there could be personal beef against these guys among the judges. I don't know how many of the 120 judges, I don't know how that even works. If you live in Poland, maybe you can explain this 120 member Supreme Court in the comments section. At any rate, these 2 individuals were never sent to prison. And now that Tusk is in charge, surprise, surprise, it's time to go full democracy, because everyone knows that arresting your political opposition, well, that's just how democracy works. Here's the thing. These 2 guys aren't even the main target. The main target is Duda, because Duda has the power to veto legislation. As far as European presidents go, he actually has a lot more power than most presidents in other European countries. A lot of them are just symbolic. Tusk has this 53.9%. It's going to be extremely hard for him to pass any of the stuff he wants to begin with, and he's never going to be able to get 60% to have a veto-proof majority. His term doesn't end until August of 2025. And so really, if Tusk can't get rid of the president, then he can't even hope to start his real agenda until 2 years from now. So they're framing this, Duda is corrupt and was harboring fugitives from the law. That these guys fled to the presidential palace to avoid the police. Who knows what really happened? It was probably all set up. They probably waited for him to go to the presidential palace just so they could create whatever narrative they wanted. Duda is the one that Tusk wants to make a case against and take him down. All right, we'll have to see how this plays out over the next few days, in the next few months. Thanks for watching this video. Click the like button, post a comment below, tell me what you think about all this. And please subscribe to my other channels on BitChute, Odyssey, and Twitter. And click the subscribe button. New video every few days.